And yeah, Steve, stay on the stage as you have been there. Nice. And if you could, and because you're up next, and you're going to give us a very valuable segment, which is always highly important and appreciated by the Exo user group and user groups attendees. And that's this industry update stuff and what's coming in the Exo releases. And so, yeah, welcome to you, my friend. Away we go.
Thank you very much, Grant. Look, firstly, I suppose just to round off with that last question. In terms of those of you that are not aware of Exo-hosted, Exo-hosted is actually an environment that's available to host your Exo environment within the cloud. It is an option that might be useful for some of you that are wanting to move away from on-premise servers. So do explore that if that's something that is of interest. Now, in our user groups, we do like to discuss industry updates, what's going on in industry more generally that potentially is impacting us within our organizations, and upcoming changes that potentially will impact us as well. So I'll rush through a few of these relatively quickly. Some of you in Australia may currently be subject to the taxable payments reporting system. For those of you that aren't aware of what this is, in essence, it is a governance requirement from the ATO to essentially manage payments to contractors. It was originally applicable only within the building and construction services industries. Was recently extended out in the last few years to include courier, cleaning, road freight, security, investigation, surveillance, and IT services industries, and in essence requires an annual submission of what's called a taxable payments annual report, which identifies all payments that are made to contractors within those industries. There have been some recent changes to TPAR submission requirements, with firstly a protocol change that's been made by the ATO, and secondly an interface format change. The way that these were rolled out from an ATO perspective has been a little bit complicated from a timing perspective. But what that means is for you to be able to support your 2021-2022 TPAR report, you will need to be on 2022.2 or greater version of Exo. And in order to support next year's TPAR submission, you will actually need to be on 2022.2.1 or greater. And there is also a patch for 2022.1.2, a little bit confusing, but if you're not sure around your version requirements for TPAR submissions, if you do have that need to submit TPAR reporting, just reach out to your business partner and they can provide more direction in terms of the versions that are most appropriate for you. Another change that we've seen introduced within the Australian climate is the introduction of the payment times reporting scheme, which is essentially a way of trying to improve payment times for small businesses within Australia. It requires larger businesses to report on their payment terms and times for all payments made to their small business suppliers. The scheme is really around increasing transparency of large business performance. It helps small businesses to decide who to do business with and just gives visibility in a forum and helps public be a bit more aware in terms of the impact that larger organizations have across the industry. Payment times reporting is supported in Exo on any version above 2021.2. So if that's a requirement that you have, if you have a large turnover and are subject to PTRS, just be aware of that update and support. E-invoicing is another initiative that we've heard a lot of over the last number of years. Of course, first introduced in February 2019 by the Australian and New Zealand governments. E-invoicing really is a strategy around how do we get rid of some of the manual processing that occurs across our organizations. For every AR transaction that's created, of course, there's typically a poor AP person who's keying a transaction in. And so the question is, how do we get some efficiencies across industry? The Australian and New Zealand government estimate by introducing e-invoicing, we can see an estimated $30 billion worth of transaction costs saved across the entire value stream. There has been significant updates around e-invoicing. We're starting to see it gain traction as particularly government departments have started to provide support to their customers, and we're seeing government departments really start to require e-invoicing support from their suppliers. We've actually seen EDI providers take a little bit of a front foot around e-invoicing support, those providers being certified as e-invoicing service providers, and really being able to support organizations within their e-invoicing demands. If you're currently using an EDI van for EDI transactions with either suppliers or customers, it would be worthwhile just exploring with them around their e-invoicing support, or reach out to another EDI provider that has e-invoicing support. If you have any questions around that, have a requirement to support e-invoicing within your businesses, just reach out to your business partner who can provide further guidance. In terms of Exo releases, we just wanted to give a little bit of an update in terms of what's new and some of the reasons for upgrading. We do see lots of organizations sometimes get a little bit behind in terms of our Exo upgrades. It is important to make sure that you're staying relatively current for a number of reasons. Of course, one of those first reasons is there are significant enhancements, increased functionality that comes out with those releases. We heard Ronnie and Jason talk to earlier the importance of iterative evolution, of embracing innovation within our organizations around our processes. And a great way to achieve that is by taking advantage of some of the new features that are available within your software. Of course, the second reason is ensuring ongoing and improved compatibility with the Microsoft stack of software. Of course, Exo relies upon Microsoft Windows Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft Office, desktop operating systems, etc. And we need to ensure that the upgrades that you do across your IT infrastructure are supported by the version of Exo that you're running. You'd be surprised the number of calls that we receive on a Monday morning where customers come in, their IT department has just done a significant upgrade. Next thing you know, Outlook is upgraded and they're having issues with Exo. It's really important that you have that conversation with your IT teams, make sure that they are aware of the dependence of Exo on that Microsoft stack. If there are any infrastructure updates, that you're being aware of that. But of course, that you're planning your IT changes in conjunction with the Exo upgrades that you do. In today's climate around security, it's all the more important that we are actually maintaining a current version of our IT platforms. We want to ensure that our organizations are secure. And a part of that is also ensuring that Exo is on a current version and we're maintaining the security around that application as well. Of course, the third reason is around those bug fixes. Of course, the newer versions of Exo don't have any bugs, which is a fantastic news for all of us. Of course, I am joking. Unfortunately, we do see bugs in software, but if you do have bugs in your current version, you will find that the Exo QA processes, the processes within MYOB around the quality assurance are consistently being refined over time. And you may well find that one of those issues that impact your organization have been addressed in a later version. Fourthly, it's about improving the effectiveness of ongoing staff training. And to that point, I do just want to highlight the importance of staff training within your organizations. You'd be surprised the number of times where we see a degradation of process and a degradation of knowledge as staff changes occur within a customer. We initially train Jane on how to use a process. John comes in and replaces Jane, and there isn't quite the handover time that you'd like. Next thing you know, John's been replaced by Tim, and all of a sudden we're using a really degraded process. We don't know how to use Exo as efficiently as we should. We really do encourage you to consider your Exo training as a way of empowering and enabling your staff. And with that, it's important to ensure that you're maintaining a relatively recent version of Exo, because there's nothing more frustrating for somebody who does some training, but to go back to their organization and find they're running an older version of software and they can't take advantage of some of those features that they've just learned about. And of course, the last point there about ensuring ongoing MYOB support. for your version of Exo. MYOB does have a rolling 2-year support window around versions of Exo. So the most recent, the oldest version of Exo currently supported is 2020.3, which was released on the 6th of October 2020 and comes out of support on the 6th of October 2022, just a short time away. So in terms of your MYOB support, you do need to be aware of the versions that are supported. Of course, your business partner will support you to a best effort, no matter what version that you're on. But you do need to be aware of the importance of that back-to-back support with MYOB that the business partners rely on. Of course, we see a number of releases every year, between 3 to 5 releases typically most years. We see MYOB continuing to make significant investments in the product, and particularly around the 2019 and up releases, where we've seen a significant replatforming of MYOB Exo to ensure continuity around those new versions of Microsoft tools that have been released. I'm not going to go through any detail in terms of the releases because I am just aware of time. But the current versions in 2022 are continuing to build on those platform changes that were made in 2019, really focusing on that user experience and usability, and really adopting some of those enhancements and features that have been identified through the business partners on the MYOB Ideas portal. As a general rule, we recommend clients to upgrade every 12 to 18 months to stay on a current MYOB supported release. That provides a little bit of a happy medium between not having too much change within your organization, but also ensuring that you are on a relatively recent version of Exo that will align with your IT changes that are happening within your organization as you get new fleets of laptops and those sorts of things as well. We do recommend you consider the way in which you undertake those upgrades, particularly a larger upgrade where you are coming from an older version. Just talk to your business partner around how you can leverage a user acceptance testing environment, how you can test and ensure that your integrations, your customizations, all the business processes that are supported by Exo are well tested as you go into a new version. And of course, once you've adopted that new version, taking advantage of the new features that you've got, considering the innovations that you can make within your organization, and looking into how you deploy that change across your organization. And that's it for me, Grant. I'm going to hand back to you.